Is it worth it? Is it worth it to portray yourself as the perfect individual just to impress someone? Is it worth it to buy the most expensive clothes and the most expensive sneakers just to impress someone at school and make them seem like your quote unquote friend? Is it worth it to buy a $200 gaming headset just so that you would consider to be good? Is it worth it to start a YouTube channel hoping that you'll get thousands of subscribers and thousands of views, then not get anything in return? Meanwhile, you spent money on a mic, a new computer, and a new capture card? Is it worth it? Because that's what I want to ask today for this episode of Deep Thoughts. Because we always worry about all the things that don't really matter. We really do. Whenever we, whenever we do anything that's new, whether it may be, for example, I think the best example would be a new YouTube channel. When we start a new YouTube channel, guess what? You always think about how many subscribers you're gonna get. You always think about how many views and how many comments you're gonna get. Trust me, when you actually start getting into YouTube and you get a solid, foundation to work off of, you don't worry about those things because those things just come to you. They really do. You don't have to go out and look for it at a certain point. And, I'm thankful to be at that point where I really don't have to go out and look for those types of things, because they just come to me. You know what I mean? Now, is it worth it? Now, this could be related to school as well. Is it worth it to try to make yourself seem like someone you're not just to impress someone? Peer pressure is one of the worst things in the world. Like, people who will pressure others that are, in their same situation, are those guys suck. They really do, because they don't know what they're talking about. They're going through the same experiences as you. They haven't gone through life. They don't know what's right and what's wrong. We're only able to judge off of what we interpret as right and wrong based on our life experiences. And that's why individuals who are older tend to be more wiser, because they have more experience overall, which, is a pretty general statement, but in itself, we really don't really know what's truly right and what's truly wrong. We're only able to we're only able to pass judgment based on what we interpret as right and wrong. Because what may seem right to you may seem completely wrong to someone else. And what may seem like nothing to you may mean the world to someone else. It's always different. Like, for example, like I've had friends who collect old baseball cards, and they have some really rare cards, which to me mean nothing because I really don't get it. Now, in terms of, like a Japanese-based card game like Vanguard or Yu-Gi-Oh! Vanguard being a pretty new trading card game, I can understand the rarity of some of the cards. I can understand why they would be worth like $100+ for just one card. I can understand that based on what I've experienced. But that's kind of off topic. Overall, is it worth it? You know what I mean? Because one man's trash is another man's treasure. That's kind of the way the world works. And I just don't understand how someone who is in the same situation or the same rut as someone else would have the audacity to judge them in such a way that they really don't have the authority to do so. Because who has the authority to judge someone who's experiencing the same things generally as them? Mostly this happens in schools, where they would say, oh yeah, you got to really worry about the way you look or the way you portray yourself, which, to an extent that is important as long as you're not making yourself seem like a complete loser, because even teachers will speak out on that. You have to be confident to an extent, but no one has the right to judge you if they're in the same situation as you and they have their own set of problems, because they really don't know what's truly right in general and what's not right. So overall, what this commentary was about is it worth it? Is it worth it to satisfy others when, in all honesty, you're harming yourself? You're just beating yourself up, because one of the individual that we always beat up the most is ourselves, because we're always not happy. We're always unsatisfied with ourselves. There's always flaws that we have to deal with that we just can't change at the moment. We may be able to change it in the future, because anyone can change from a child to an adult. I've seen people have huge turnarounds in terms of personality and the way they portray themselves as, when they're originally a kid to an adult. It just happens. Sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes people are wired in such a way where they could change. It doesn't happen immediately, it happens over time, but it could happen. So I think it depends on what we interpret as the way life should be spent. And there's lots of ways to spend life. There's not one definitive way of spending one's life. Like, how do you determine what's right, and what's the wrong way of spending life? You know what I mean? I think it just goes through experience, and everyone goes through life in their own way. You know, maybe someone like, people like parents and stuff have influences on their children's life, but when they're not around, what their child really does when no one's looking kind of defines them as an individual. Because what we do when no one's looking is, or when no one's listening, truly allows us to portray exactly who we are. Because when you're having a conversation with your parents, when your parents are around, you can't really act the way you really are. You can't say the things you usually say when your parents aren't around. That's just, kind of the way that works. It's the same thing nowadays, and I know this is kind of going to go off topic, but a lot of advice that parents would give to their children if they're gay is to not kind of let it be known until after high school or when they get into college, because if you've been to high school for any extent of time, you'll know that high school kids really don't accept, homosexuals or homosexuality as a whole. It's not that they act sexist, really. It's not that they act sexist in a way. It's just that they don't really accept it. They don't think it's, it's like, they don't think it is right. But again, you can't judge on what's right and what's wrong. You can only judge on experience and what you interpret as right and wrong, and it just serves as an opinion. Because most things that individuals like myself, including myself and others, say are based on opinion and not mostly based on fact. Now, that's not on all cases, but a lot of cases, such as homosexuality, what someone thinks is their opinion. What someone knows, and what someone knows as a fact is, that's what separates a fact from an opinion, because it's a widely spread piece of information that everyone agrees on. So, in all honesty, this commentary kind of took a turn on, talking about opinionated opinions about homosexuals. But anyways, this has been Deep Thoughts. Hope you enjoyed.